All right, good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a great weekend. This is Rob here from Digital Arts Experience, and we are doing another Python project today. So if you recall from last week, we did a Python project that involved using variables to create a little quiz, and we used some if-then statements to check if our answers were right or wrong. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at using lists in Python. And the project we're going to be doing is kind of a fun one. Basically, we're going to have the computer randomly generate a sandwich based on what we put in different lists. So we'll have a list that contains different kinds of breads, a list that contains different kinds of meats, a list that contains different kind of cheeses, maybe one for toppings, and then the computer will randomly pick a component from each of those lists to put together a sandwich for us. This is a useful program if you can't decide what kind of sandwich you want to have for lunch. So we're going to write a program to help us decide that. Depending on how we do with time, we may add another component to this, which will be having the program ask us what ingredients we have. So it'll ask what kind of breads do you have, what kind of meats do you have, what kind of cheese do you have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we can kind of enter everything that we might have in the cupboard, and then it will help us figure out what kind of sandwich to make. So we'll start with the first one. If we have time, we'll do the more complicated one, but we'll see how it goes, and we're gonna just jump right in and get started here. So I'm using idle again. As we talked about in the last stream, you can use REPL.it or Replit or whatever it's called. That's a great online compiler for writing Python. There are a number of others. I'm using idle because it's what I'm used to. That's the one that you can get from python.org. You can download that and install that in 2 seconds. Super easy, and of course it's free, which is great, and there's tons of great documentation. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Before we jump into making the actual sandwich program, what we're going to do is we are going to quickly look at how lists work. So we're going to be making a program that deals with sandwiches. So we're going to start with a bread list and just see how that works. So I'm going to make a variable called bread. Now normally we can make a variable that contains a string, and we can print that string, bread, and it's going to print the contents of that variable in our shell. We can also have a variable contain a number, an integer, so we can print bread, and it should print out our integer. We can also add to that bread plus 5, and it should print out our integer that's contained within bread plus the number 5 or whatever we put here, right? So in addition, we can have a variable contain a list, and the way you create a list is using the square brackets. We're going to put in some numbers for now. Actually, you know what? Because we're going to be dealing with strings, we're going to put in strings. So we're going to put 1, 2, 3. And so what I've done is I've put the square brackets to tell Python that I want to create a list, and then I've put in 3 different strings in this list. I have the string 1, the string 2, and the string 3. These could also be numbers. It could be a number of different things. But we're going to be using strings because we're going to be using words, so let's be consistent. Now, the way that lists work is a list has different slots, if you will. You can think of it like if we were making an RPG, and the character in your RPG has an inventory, and you're only allowed to carry 5 items in your inventory, you can create a list that has 5 different slots, and once those slots are full, you wouldn't be able to take any more items or carry any more items, and you'd be able to use those items by pulling a different index from your list. So this bread list has 3 items in it. That means it has 3 indices, right? So one of the things that's good to know with Python is when you're dealing with a list, the first item or the first index is actually index 0. So I need to know that if I wanted to pull this 3rd index from my list, this is actually index number 2. 1 would be 0, 2 would be 1, 3 would be 2. A little bit confusing, but you'll get used to it. Now let's just demonstrate that. If I print, let's see if I'm going to write this correctly. I might do this incorrectly. Bread, and I'm going to print index number. I think I put the square brackets here. Watch me make a mistake and do the wrong thing. I'll print index number 1. Now, see, that worked correctly. So I'm printing the bread list, and I'm pulling index number 1. And index number 1 is 0, 1. It's the second one. If I printed bread and I wanted index number 2, that's going to give me the string 3 because it's in the third index, but we start at 0, 1, 2. If I print index 0, it's going to give me the first one, right? So that's really important to know. And if I was to put in index 5, I get an error because there is no index 5. If I put in index 3, I get an error because there is no index 3. That would be the fourth item in our list because we start at 0. Okay? Hope that makes sense. You'll get used to it as we work with this. So what we're going to do, I'm actually going to erase all of this. What we're going to do to get started is, first thing is we're going to import random. The reason we're going to do that is because we're going to have Python randomly pull indexes from different lists. We don't want to have to tell it which index to pull. We want, using the import random library, we can have Python do that randomly and automatically. So first thing we're going to do is import random. Random has a bunch of things included in it. For example, we can print random.rand int. So that would be the random library, and we're using the object rand int, which is rand integer. And I can say 0 to 100. And if I print this, Python is going to pull a random integer from this range and print it out. So let's see if this works. So I have a random integer of 99. If I run this again, oops. If I run this again, I get 57. If I run it again, I get 19, so on and so forth. So we're randomly pulling numbers from 0 to 100. So that's a cool function that we can use using the random library. That's going to be helpful for a couple really fun projects that we'll create in the future, particularly one using the turtle library, which is a lot of fun. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start building our list. So we can get rid of this. So the first thing we need is we have a bread list. So I'm just going to call that bread, and I'm going to create a list, and let's put white wheat, and of course I need to put that in quotes because it's a string, otherwise Python will get confused what that is. White wheat, rye, roll, hero. That sounds pretty good. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 indices. White would be an index 0. Hero would be an index 4. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is let's do a list of different kinds of meats. So we'll say meats equals square brackets. We'll do turkey, ham. Let's put salami. Let's do, drawing a blank. Let's see what would be another good one here. We can say, let's do grilled chicken. That's good. And lastly, let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 5 as well. Let's see, what's a good final meat we can use? Let's use roast beef. That works. Not roast beef, roast beef. So breads, meats, let's do cheeses. So we'll do cheeses. And then again, square brackets, and we're going to put in American. We'll do cheddar. Let's do provolone, Swiss, and how about pepper jack? That sounds pretty good. So, okay. Now we are going to have, let's do one for toppings, and then we'll do one for like condiments. That'll be good too. So we can do 5 different lists. So let's see, how are we going to do this? So we'll do toppings first. So we'll put toppings, and we'll make a list for toppings. Oops. All right, so toppings, we'll put lettuce, tomato. How about hot peppers, sweet peppers, and what's another final object we can have? How about onion? That sounds good. All right, and then lastly, we'll do I'm just going to call this sauces, except I have to spell it correctly. Sauces, and that way we can put some condiments. So let's put in mayo, mustard, put in hot sauce. Love hot sauce. I make my own homemade hot sauce. Fun fact. And I ferment it. It's a fun process. Anyway, mayo, mustard, hot sauce. How about Russian dressing? And what else is a good condiment for a sandwich? Mayo, mustard. You know what? I'm just going to leave it at those 4 because I can't think of anything else. So everything has 5 indexes except our sauces, which has 4. Okay. So we've got our different lists. Before we build the rest of this, I'm going to quickly show you all how we can pull a random index from this list. So we've imported the random library. What I can do now is I can print random dot choice, and then I can put in the name of the list. So if I put in bread, so what this is telling Python is to pull a random index from the list bread. And what's nice about that is it won't ever exceed the number of indices in that list and throw an error. So if it does our meat list, it knows that there's 5 indices. If it does our sauces list, it knows there are 4 indices. It will never exceed that. So if I print random choice from the bread list, this should run properly, right? It gave us white. So if I run this again, it gave us white again. Let's see if it's gonna rye. I'm getting a lot of the same here, huh? Not so random. Okay, hero. Okay, not getting so much randomization, but it is being randomized. So that's perplexing. Maybe it's just because there's so few, it's hitting the same one. If I made a really, really long list of, let's say, 20 different breads, maybe that would work a little bit more effectively. But it is randomizing. We're just getting some repeats. That's curious as to why that's happening. I'm not entirely sure. If you know, please throw a comment. We'll figure it out. But anyway, let's get started on actually making the sandwich generator here. So we know that we have our lists. We know that we can pull random indices from our lists. Now let's make this a fun program. So we're going to start by printing a string to welcome everyone to the project. In fact, let's personalize it. So we'll do what we did in the quiz, where we'll make a name variable and take input from the user so that we can have the computer engage them by first name. So we're going to have name equals input, just like we did last time. And then the input function needs a string as a prompt. So that will be please enter your first name, right? And if you recall from last time, I put the colon and the space only to make it look nice when it prints in our shell. This is not necessary. It's merely for spacing and because I like to make things look nice and even. So now we can print welcome to the sandwich generator. Let's actually personalize that even more. We'll say hello name, welcome to the sandwich generator. So if we test this, assuming I didn't do anything incorrectly, it should ask us our name. Hello, Rob. Welcome to the sandwich generator. I'm just going to fix the capitalization here. Perfect. Okay, so we've personalized that. Let's print another line, make this a little bit more fun. We'll say, let's say, today I am going to help you decide what kind of sandwich to eat for lunch. Perfect. And then we've got our lists. So we've got all our lists here, and now what we'll do is we will print in a string, your sandwich is ... And I think what we should do, if you recall from our quiz game, we imported the time library into Python, and then we used the time.sleep function to put delays between lines. I think we should have the computer print your sandwich is, and then wait a few seconds, like it's thinking and processing, and then it puts your sandwich out. So I think that would be a good idea. So what we'll do is above import random, we'll import time, just like we did for the quiz game. And then we'll put some pauses in between this. So we will say, we'll ask for the name, and then it will say, hello, name, welcome to the sandwich generator. Then we'll have it wait for 1 second. So let's wait for 2 seconds. So if we run this, it will ask us our name, and then welcome to the sandwich generator. Today I'm going to help you decide which kind of sandwich to eat for lunch. Let's put a little pause there, time.sleep. And I'm not really doing this correctly. I should have these lists farther up, so I'm just going to move them up. Right, so there's our lists. And then that way, our program can be all nicely packed together over here. So we have our lists. Enter your name, hello, wait 2 seconds. I'm going to help you figure out what kind of sandwich. I need to be able to type properly and not have typos. Okay, we'll wait 2 seconds here. Your sandwich is ... and then we're going to have another pause. And now we need to have it start to pull the random indexes or indices from our list. So let's do that. So we're going to print, and let's think about how we want to format this. I think I'd like the computer to say your sandwich is meat and cheese with topping and sauce on bread. So it will be random.choice meats. So we're going to pull our meats first. So meat and then we'll do our cheese. So random.random choice and then cheeses. Random.choice. I'm sorry, I keep messing that up. I want to say random.random choice, but that's not correct. So cheeses, random.choice meats. That'll pull a random index from the meat list, and random.choice cheeses, random index from the cheeses list. Okay, then we'll separate that and put with. Let's do toppings and sauce. Random dot. Actually, let's put the rest of them in a separate list, in a separate print statement. I'm sorry. We could squeeze them all into one, but I'm going to separate them out just so it's a little bit easier to look at. So we'll do random.choice again, and we'll put in toppings, and oops, need to put those quotes or else Python's gonna get angry at me. I'm making all kinds of mistakes today, and So toppings and sauces on random.choice bread. Okay. And I'm actually just going to squeeze this over a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. Perfect. Okay, so now we can see it. So let's quickly go through this and make sure I did everything correctly. So we're printing a random choice from the meat list. So it will say print turkey and then a random choice from the cheeses list. So turkey and American. And then with a random choice from toppings, lettuce, and random choice from sauces, mustard, on random choice of bread. So this should work. I don't think I have any errors, but I might. Who knows? But let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. So if we throw an error, invalid syntax. So invalid syntax. So I did not separate and random choice of sauces with a comma. So it got angry at me for that. All right, so please enter your first name. Welcome to the sandwich generator. Today I'm going to help you decide what kind of sandwich to eat for lunch. Your sandwich is roast beef and Swiss with hot peppers and Russian dressing on a hero. Nice. I realize I have a typo, so let's put that here. Very nice. It does print that on two separate lines as we had written it, although I don't really like the way that looks, but that's okay. We're just going to go with it here. So enter your first name. Welcome to the sandwich generator. I'm going to help you what kind of sandwich to eat for lunch. Your sandwich is salami and Swiss with tomato and mayo on a roll. Nice. Okay, so this works really well. We can try it one more time just to see if we get some good randomization. And then I think we're going to move on to the next phase of this because we definitely have some time. So, mute my phone here. Sorry about that. So welcome to the sandwich generator. I'm going to help you decide what kind of sandwich to eat for lunch. Your sandwich is turkey and... We're getting Swiss a lot. That's really weird. So we got roll, we got hero. We got Swiss, Swiss, Swiss. So that's weird. Let's keep running this and seeing if we're getting any randomization. Let's see. Swiss again. So that's really, really weird that we keep getting... Everything else seems to be pretty... We got salami again, but that's fine. Onion and mustard. That is so weird. Let's just try it again. All right. Let's see. How peculiar. Everything else seems to be working except that cheese list. All right, now we got a different cheese. All right, it's just not very well randomized, I guess. Maybe because we only have 5 cheeses, but the other ones seem to be pretty well randomized. I'm not so sure, but that's okay. We're just going to go with it anyway. I honestly don't know how to make it better. So let's figure it out another time, and we'll move on to the next phase of this. So the next phase of this is going to be the same exact project, except this one is going to allow the user to input what ingredients they have. So it will ask you, the idea will be the program will ask you, what breads do you have? And then you type them in separated with a comma. What meats do you have? What cheeses do you have? What toppings do you have? What condiments do you have? And then based on what you have, the computer will put together a sandwich. So this would be useful if you're digging through your cabinet and you have a bunch of random ingredients, you don't know what to make, you can't decide, everything sounds pretty good. This program can help you figure that out. So I'm going to quickly create a new project because I like this and I don't want to get rid of it. So I'm just going to go to File, select a new file. And now I've got a new Python project, a new Python script over here. And before I do anything, I'm going to save this file, save as. I'm going to put it in the documents, and I'm going to call this program Sandwich. Pretty fun. So, again, we're going to import random and import time because we're going to use those functions again, okay? And let's start with a prompt. So we will print welcome Let's personalize it. We'll do the name and input thing again, like we did before. Name equals input. We need our prompt for our input, which is going to be a string, and we will. Wow, I'm going too fast. Haste makes waste. You have to slow down a little bit. I'm rushing through this. Please enter your name. Okay, and then we will print, just like we did last time. Hello. Name. Welcome to the Sandwich program. And then we'll print I will help you decide what kind of sandwich to eat. To make. Let's do that. What kind of sandwich to make? Okay, now, here's where we get into taking in the input and putting it into a list. So we know how to take in input. That's no issue, right? This line right here allows the user to put information in. What we need to figure out how to do is to take in a series of inputs and split those into a list, which we can do really easily. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a variable called bread, and we're going to take an input, and we're going to put in a prompt. And the prompt will be, please enter the types of bread you have separated by commas. And that's good. Okay, perfect. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create another variable called bread list. Now, before we move on, I just want to quickly point something out. Do you see how I capitalized the L in list? So 2 quick tidbits that we didn't talk about last time. One is you cannot have a capital letter as the first letter in a variable. That will piss Python off a little bit, and it will yell at you and give you a bunch of errors. So lowercase letter for the first letter. Now, variables that are built in multiple words, if I have this as a lowercase L in bread list, it makes this kind of funny to read. So by capitalizing the first letter of every subsequent word after the first word makes it a little bit easier to read. So for example, maybe I wanted to call this Rob's bread list. That makes this a little bit easier to read than this. This just looks like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. But by capitalizing every subsequent first letter of every word in the variable, that makes it a little bit easier to look at. At least I think so. This is called camel case. Not necessary, but I think it's useful. Also, you can't have spaces in variables. That will not work. You need to have it as one word. So anyway, so we have our variable bread list. We're using camel case to capitalize that L. So bread equals input. Please enter the types of bread separated by commas. So we would enter 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many different types of bread separated by commas. Now we need to tell Python to take all that information and split it up into a list. And we do that by using, let's see, bread dot split, okay? And what we need to do is tell Python what we're going to use as the indicator for when you want to split these things up. So I'm going to put a comma and a space, because when someone's using this program and they're entering in their bread choices, they would put white, comma, space, wheat, comma, space, whatever. And every time Python sees a comma space, it will split what's following that comma and space into an index in the list. So for example, if I print, let's test this, bread list, and I pull in index 1, because I'll put 3 items in. I'm going to run this program. Okay, it's going to ask my name, welcome to the name. So if I put in white, wheat, rye, so it printed wheat, which means it printed the second index in the list, which is wheat, right? Because white's in the first index, which is index 0, so on and so forth. So we're basically taking this list, and anytime it sees the comma and the space, it's going to chop up what follows that into a new index in the list, which is really, really nice. So we've basically taken a bunch of input, and then we have split it up into a list. So we're going to do the same thing with meats. So we'll say meats equals input. And again, we'll give a prompt. Please enter the types of bread you have, not break, types of bread you have separated by commas. Right, and then we'll do the same thing again. We'll do a variable called meats list equals meats dot split, and then the same thing, comma space. All right, we're going to repeat this process for let's do cheeses, toppings, and condiments. So we'll do this all again. This is going to be a little bit of typing. So I'm going to copy and paste, and I'm going to do this a little bit more quickly. So we'll do cheeses equals please enter the types of cheeses. No, that's not it. Chesses. Cheeses. There it is. You have separated by commas. And then we will do cheeses list, or cheese list if we want to make that a little bit shorter. Cheese list. And then we will do cheeses dot split, separated by commas again. Okay, next one. So meats, we're going to change that into toppings equals please enter the types of toppings you have separated by commas. And we will do topping list or toppings list. Toppings list equals toppings dot split, the comma again. And so we have meats, breads, cheeses, toppings. Let's get that condiment list in, and then we will put this together, and this should work well. Let's see. So we'll do same thing. Paste that in, and we will put, I'm going to do sauces again. Please enter the types of condiments you have separated by commas. And then we will do the same thing. Oh, what did I do? Sauces list equals sauces dot split, same thing again. So we should now have a list of breads, meats, cheeses, toppings, and sauces that are all derived from user input. So this is now an interactive project. So now we need to put some strings together. So just like we did before, we have the name, print welcome. I will help you decide what kind of sandwich to make. We go through all of the different input, and then we will say print the sandwich you should make is ... Oops. And we will put a pause in momentarily, but first let's print out the prompt. So print. So we're going to do the exact same thing we did before, right? I have that project open, in fact. Let me move this over. All right. It's going to be exactly like this. We're going to say random dot choice. And our list is bread list. And I have to make sure the capitalization is the same. So I wrote bread list over here with a capital L. If I wrote it down here with a lowercase l, Python wouldn't know what was what. They wouldn't know they were the same. It needs to be written with the same exact capitalization or else it gets confused. So, and that needs to be a string. So let's put some quotes in. And then we'll do random dot choice. We will do cheeses, so it's cheese. Oh, hold on a minute. I did this wrong. It should be the meats list, not the bread list. I was reading them in order from top to bottom here, but we actually put them together with much better syntax here. Meat and cheese on, with topping and sauce on bread. So we'll do the same thing again. Random.choice meats list, that's first. Then cheese list. Right, and then I'm going to do the same thing on another line. Print with random dot choice. We'll do our toppings list. And again, has to be written with the same exact capitalization or else it gets angry. And last time I forgot the comma between and the sauces list. So I didn't forget that this time, which is nice. Random, that's not right. Let's fix that. Random dot choice. And let's see. Our random choice is sauce list. And then our final piece to this is on, and it's random dot choice. And it should be our bread list. See if I got that correct. Bread list. Okay, cool. So, move this over a little bit so we can see everything. Move this over so we can see both windows. Okay, so print a random meat and a random cheese with a random topping and a random sauce on a random bread. Let's just make sure I got these list names correctly. Random.choice meats list. Random.choice cheese list. Random.choice toppings list. Random.choice sauce list. Random.choice bread list. Okay, this should work. The only thing I want to do before we test this is put some pauses in between. So let's put a time.sleep in here, and I will put this in for 2 seconds again. I thought that was pretty good. I will help you decide what kind of sandwich to make. We'll put in a pause after that. Time.sleep 2 seconds. It's going to go through this whole thing. I don't think I'm going to put any delays between inputting the stuff. I think you'll have enough time to kind of think through it all. So that's good. And then we'll put, so we have a sleep after all this. Maybe we'll put one after this. Time.sleep. Ooh, that is not the right spelling. Time.sleep. And we'll do 2 seconds. And then the sandwich you should make is, and let's make this 3 seconds for a little extra weight. And then we've got our printing of the list. So let's see if this works. I bet you I'll throw an error somewhere. I bet I did something wrong. Hello, Rob. Welcome to the sandwich program. I will help you decide what kind of sandwich to make. Please enter the types of bread you have separated by commas. White, wheat, roll, rye. Please enter the... Oh, look at that. I did make a mistake. In the string for the meat list, I did not update the prompt in the input function, so it asked for the same types of bread again. So that's not good. Let's fix that, and let's try this again. I knew I'd make a mistake. I always do. But it doesn't have to be perfect the first time through. That's the thing about writing code. You're always going to make mistakes. There's always going to be errors, and you should always know that it's not going to work properly the first time, and you're probably going to have to run it a few times to get it to work properly. So let's see. Let's run this one more time. So breads, white, wheat, rye, roll. Please enter the types of meats. Turkey, ham, salami. Is that? It just splits it onto 2 lines. That's no big deal. In fact, I can make this a little wider. Salami and roast beef. Cheeses. So we'll do cheddar, American, and provolone. All right. So I got an error. And let's just take a look at what this error is, because it'll help us figure out where everything is. So luckily enough, Python tells you when there's an error on which line the error is. So I have a line on line, it says error on line 15. It says cheese list equals chesses dot split. Chesses is not defined. So I have a typo in here in my list. So if you look, I have the variable cheeses. First of all, this is line 15. So we know for a fact that this is the one that has the error. And I know that because of the little line indicator right here. So I know that that's the error. So it says cheeses is input, blah, 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 blah. Cheese list equals chesses. So I put a typo in here. And now if I correct this, this should work properly. So let's run this again and see if it's fixed our problem. So we'll go through the program again. Sandwich program. It's going to help me decide what kind of sandwich to make. Oh, all right, breads. White, wheat, rye. I'm just going to do simplified ones. Meats, turkey, ham, salami, roast beef. Types of cheeses. Cheddar, American, Swiss. And toppings, lettuce, hot peppers, and onion. And then condiments, we'll do hot sauce, mustard, mayo. The sandwich you should make is... All right. So it started my print statement. So the first two lines, roast beef and cheddar, that's the first print statement worked. But I got a traceback error on line 26. And is something wrong with sauce list? So let's go back here and take a look. I put another typo. So my list is called sauces list. I just put sauce list. That little typo will throw an error. So I think we should have it right this time. Let's run it again. One thing also just to keep in mind, that's pretty cool. I just wanted to quickly mention this, is the cool thing about using this, the bread.split with the commas separating it, is that it doesn't matter whether you have one index or 20 indices in your list. The program will always function correctly because we're using the split function to split the indexes properly or indices properly. And because we're using random choice, it will never exceed the number of indices that you create, which is cool. If we did this with like using rand int with the number of indexes in each list, the number of items that you input might not match the number that you put in the random.rand int function, and then it might get screwed up. So this always will work properly, which is really nice. It will work properly if you have no errors in it, though, and that's my fault. Let's try this one more time. I think we fixed all of our errors. Let's give this another go. So there was another thing I wanted to take out. I'll point that out in 1 second. So we're going to start with breads again. White, wheat, rye, roll. Not toll. Roll. There we go. Meats, turkey, salami, ham, roast beef. Let's see. Cheeses, cheddar, American, Swiss, and provolone. And don't worry about it cutting this to a new line here. It's actually, if I stretch this out, it's actually connected. Toppings, lettuce, tomato, and hot peppers. Can you tell I like spicy food? Condiments, hot sauce, mustard, and mayo. So I don't like how long that wait is. We're going to take that one out. The one between when you enter your items and then it says the sandwich you should make. That was too long of a break. I think I'm going to take that out. But turkey and Swiss with tomato and mayo and rye, that works properly, which is great. So I think I'm going to take this out. So it asks you all of the questions and then immediately says the sandwich you should make is, and then waits 3 seconds and prints the list. So let's just try that again. All right, so name, welcome to the sandwich program, decide what sandwich to make. This is all good. So white, wheat, roll. Meats, turkey, ham, salami. I'm just gonna go through this quickly. Cheeses, cheddar. Let's say I only have 2 cheeses and Swiss. Toppings, let's put lettuce and tomato. And condiments, mayo, mustard. That's much better. The sandwich you should make is beautiful, and that works properly. So we've got a functioning sandwich program here. I'm really a big fan of this program. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a great project to learn how lists work. Plus, it introduces the random choice function, which is really, really cool, plus the split function, which is great. So I really like it. So let's quickly recap what we worked on today, and then we're going to wrap up. So last week we did a quiz where we introduced variables and some functions like print and some other basic things like if-then. We didn't use any control flow like if-then or anything like that in this program, but we did use variables, we did use our print statement, and we used import random and import time. The other thing we learned about is lists. We talked about lists being a list of information, a series of different pieces of information contained within a variable. That could be strings or numbers, and you can pull any index from that list. An index is a space in that list. We use the analogy of an inventory in an adventure-style game. Your inventory on the back end in the code, the inventory might be a list called inventory that has 5 indexes or indices, and you can put items in that, but as soon as it's full, you can't put any more in there, and then you can choose which item you want to use based on which index you pull. So if I pull index 0, that would be my first item. If I pull index 2, that would be my third item, so on and so forth. We talked about how you pull items from that list. You would put red list and then the square brackets, and put whichever index you want, and it will pull that. And then we built our sandwich program using that idea of lists. We built the 2 sandwich programs. The one would be our simple automated one, where it just we create the lists beforehand, and it makes the sandwich based on the information that's already in the program. Then we made the interactive one, where whoever is using this program can input what they have in their fridge and cupboard, and the computer will help you decide what kind of sandwich to make for lunch. So I hope you enjoyed this project. I think it's a good one. It's a lot of fun. In the next Python lesson we'll probably start playing with the Turtle graphics library, which will allow us to draw with code. We'll probably do something like making a simple Etch-a-Sketch where you can draw with the keys on the keyboard. We also might make a Python Mad Lib, which is always really fun. But at any rate, I hope you enjoyed the lesson today. Hope you'll tune in future lessons, and I hope you have a great day. We'll see you a little bit later this afternoon.